what would be the fastest way to create prosperity for you and prosperity for others?
Well, first, understanding that prosperity abounds and finding ways to focus that allow it to show its evidence to you. You have to show it to yourself. We like to say, start with easy things. Start with the abundance of something that you believe could come. The abundance of clarity, which brings you right here. Room full of people, lots of people wanting to be here, but you cashed in the ticket. That's an abundance that, as you acknowledge it, causes you to offer a vibration that, as you practice it, then it becomes something that you do often enough that then that's the path of more allowing of more things like it. The thing that trips most people up relative to the subject of prosperity, they have a flawed premise that they begin from. They believe that there is only so much in the prosperity pie and that it is being divided up unfairly and that people are getting more than their fair share. Well, when you believe that, you can't possibly find prosperity because your beliefs will hold you from it. You have to at least begin with the understanding that the pie expands proportionate to desire. So the desire pie of abundance is enormous, but the belief pie of abundance is paltry by comparison. So as an individual, you got to do something to get your belief pie up to speed with your desire pie. Otherwise, you're just going to complain about how little pie you get. The other day we were talking about how people, rather than paying attention to energy and energy in motion and creation that is actually underway, instead they want to look at manifestations. So they divide all of humanity up into piles, which they then claim or judge or embrace or push against, not realizing that they just keep scrambling their energy, where if they could just define all of it by alignment or not alignment, by allowing of abundance or pinching off of abundance, if you could put this alignment of energy that we talk about all day every day in the same category as financial abundance, if you could understand that it's all one and the same thing, then you can find abundance in this regard and in this regard. Clarity is abundance. Oh, to be tuned in, tapped in, turned on to clarity, to infinite intelligence. Whew, that is abundance, you see. And so a lot of people, as they are dividing up the world and pigeonholing it and cataloging it, they begin with this premise that the pie is finite. It isn't. It's infinite. And that those who take it just move about from empire to empire. It's not that way at all. It's different people under different situations allow differently. So we always start with people by saying, start with something easy and just decide that you're going to let the universe show you how it can deliver, and choose something that you don't doubt that it can deliver. Don't ask for money that you don't believe, and don't ask for a relationship that you don't believe either. Don't ask for anything that you don't believe, because all the universe will do is show you what you believe. The universe won't show you what it's capable of. It will show you what you're capable of believing. Oh. And so you got to find a way of moving your belief. Well, what's a belief? A belief's just a thought that you continue to think. Well, why do you continue to think it? Because law of attraction makes it more likely that you're going to continue to think the thought that you've been thinking. Somebody believed it, they demonstrated it, they told you about it, you observed them, you believe it. So you believe things that just aren't serving you sometimes. Sometimes you believe things that do serve you. But until you have a first-hand experience with something, our best example of that happened to Esther many years ago. There was a very stubborn woman on the telephone with us long ago when we were talking to people on the telephone. She was asking questions like you're asking, but she wanted a magic wand. She wanted us to just predict her future, and she wanted it to be a good future that we were predicting. And she did not want to learn that she was the creator of her own reality, and she didn't want to mess with all of this business of learning about vibration. And we didn't have a shortcut for her, and she wasn't happy with us. And so we decided to talk to her about a few things, because we knew if we could activate some of these subjects within her, that the universe could demonstrate its ability to deliver. And maybe, just maybe, she might become a believer in her own focus. So we talked to her for over a minute about blue glass, and then we talked to her for over a minute about butterflies, and then we talked to her for over a minute about feathers, and she wasn't having any of it. And so the conversation was over. Esther had been in the room alone. Jerry had not heard. And then Jerry and Esther went off to lunch, and they were in California. They were in La Jolla. And as they got out of the car and began walking toward the restaurant where they were going to eat, there was a shop of many beautiful things with a big display window that Jerry and Esther had walked past many times. They'd been in the shop also. And Esther had such a powerful compulsion to go inside that shop. It was irrational because they were both hungry. And Jerry was really in a hurry, and Esther peeled off and said, "Come with me." And he said, "Come with me." And Esther said, "Come with me." And he said, "Come with me." And Esther just went in, so he came with her. And in the back of the shop was a wall of blue glass, wall to wall, more blue glass than Esther had ever seen or ever wanted to see, all in one place. Esther did not make any correlation. She was not really thinking about what the conversation had been. But then they went off, they had lunch. Then they left the restaurant and they took a nice long walk down to the water's edge. And as they were walking across a big apron of grass, a flurry of butterflies surrounded them that was so intense they had to stop talking to each other so that they did not eat them. And Esther still was not thinking about blue glass and butterflies. And Jerry's laughing about it, and the butterflies eventually lifted off of them. And about that time, a little boy came running across the way. A little boy, neither Jerry or Esther knew this little boy, and he handed Esther a feather. And when he reached his little hand out with this feather, all of a sudden Esther had this realization that the blue glass and the butterflies and the feathers had only been activated within her a short time ago, enough that the universe was able to orchestrate circumstances and events in order to deliver to her this active vibration. And the combination of all three of them piling in such a short period of time just drove home the point that we want to make so much, that you get whatever it is that you focus upon, absence resistance about it. If Esther had had a phobia about blue glass and butterflies and feathers, if she had feared interaction with them, then those would not have been the subjects that would have been good for her to activate, or for us to activate on her behalf. You see what we're getting at? So you must find things that you believe, that you activate, so that the universe can demonstrate to you not its ability to deliver to you, but your ability to be non-resistant about subjects. Because any subject that you are not resistant about comes into your experience. Now let's think about that. A person who really thinks about sickness a lot and rarely thinks about wellness is non-resistant to illness, wouldn't you say? You get what you think about. What saves you is that you are fickle. You're ambivalent about so many things. So when you decide that there is something in this world that you want to experience, you've got to find a way of focusing on it and knowing for sure that you're focusing upon it in the way that your inner being focuses upon it. And your inner being does not focus upon the things that you desire with any resistance. Does that make sense to you? So you just have to practice it. You get better and better and better at it. Every single thing that happens. Don't you find it interesting? One of the first things that Esther remembers, Jerry and Esther were in Tucson, and it was amazing to be there. Such different topography and such different landscaping. The big cactus, those big saguaro cactuses that were enormous and standing out in the desert. And Esther was in love with them. She thought they were so unique. She wanted one for her very own. She wanted to go out into the desert and find one and bring it home with her to be her friend. And Jerry said, can't do that. Can't just go get one. That's illegal. And Esther said, it's just as well. I don't think we could manage it anyway. And then she said, I wonder how they move them anyway. And Jerry said, very carefully. And they turned a corner, and even though they'd been there for over a year and had never seen one moved before, there was one on the back of a machine that had reached out and picked it up and put it on its own self. In other words, it was a machine that was created just for the legal movement of those things. And Jerry said, well, there you go. Anything else you'd like to know? Because that's how it is. When you ask with no resistance, the universe says, here you go, here you go, here you go. In fact, everything that comes to you is just like that. The balance of your thoughts equal everything that comes to you. So if good stuff is coming, change nothing. If you like it the way it is, just keep thinking the way you are. But if you want to add some abundance of some things, and they haven't been coming, then you've got to find a different vibrational standpoint. Yes? Helpful?
Very helpful.
Enough?
One more question, but I'll shift this
Speak
subject.
loudly.
Okay. I have, my dad made his transition about 2 years back. So I have this technical question that once you move in the non-physical, how long do you stay in the non-physical before you can choose to come back?
Well, your inner being is there for all eternity. And a part of that consciousness comes. And so sometimes there are more of you here than you know. More aspects of you. In other words, it's not like you're looking at it. It's not like you're alive and then you're dead and then you're alive and then you're dead. You're always alive, and sometimes you're you and 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 you. And when the yous that are you meet up with the other yous that are you, you usually have a really interesting experience. Sometimes you say, oh, I have an affinity to this artist or to this scientist, and I was born the year he died. And we say, he doesn't have to be dead before you can receive the essence of who he is. You could channel all kinds of living musicians into something that is uniquely you see. Helpful? The thing that your father would like you to know, really, really wants you to know this. You listening?
Yes.
His interest in you and what he was about is keen. But it is not his interest in all of that that makes you know that he's around. It's your interest in that, in relationship to him, that makes you know that he is around. Esther could hardly wait to get off the ship in Athens because we promised ghosts. And so she's just walking around, feeling for them, feeling all kinds of energy. She felt lots of energy up her back. She sat in a corner at a restaurant and felt like a vortex of everything that was non-physical was pouring through her. It was delicious. And then she and friends went over to the beautiful museum that was looking at the ruins of where the goddess statue once was. Esther so wanted to see it, but it was already stolen by previous generations. And so she's looking across the way. And she said, so Abraham, do we need to go over there to meet up with those ghosts that you talked about? And we said, non-physical's not interested in what's over there. Non-physical's interested in what's over here where you all are. Not looking back. Here's where the action is. In other words, it's where you are. It's this leading edge is where non-physical is looking. The only reason that you hook up with them in places like that is because of your expectation. And that's what your father is wanting you to know. If you want more interaction, it's your expectation, it's your belief that has to adjust just a little bit. Yes?
Brilliant.
Good.
Thank you so much.
Very good. This is a good time for a segment of refreshment.